And we're
All
live.
right, so on this review, real quick, if we're doing absolute value, remember the absolute value has to be isolated. We split it and solve, so this would be 2x plus 5 equals 3, and 2x plus 5 equals negative 3. We still do the same steps, just like we're solving an equation. It's just going to be, this is 2x equals negative 2, so x equals negative 1. This would be 2x equals negative 8, so this would be x equals negative 4. Check both your answers to make sure that they both work. There shouldn't be an extraneous answer unless there's variables on both sides. If there's variables on both sides, that's when you have an extraneous answer. Doesn't happen all the time. On the second one over here on number 4, it says the absolute value of 9 plus 4x is equal to negative 7. That's an empty set. Absolute value always comes out positive. It cannot be equal to a negative number. Empty set, no need to do any work. On this one, you subtract the 2, and then you're actually going to divide both sides by a negative 7. So that'll turn that one around to positive, and you can work it out. Okay? Make sure you go through the steps to isolate the absolute value before you split and solve. Down at the bottom of this first page, evaluate. A negative 4 minus 8 is a negative 12, but we're doing the absolute value of a negative 12. That's distance from 0. Negative 12 is 12 away from 0, so this makes a positive 12. Anytime you get down to absolute value, it's going to be a positive number. The only time it's different is if you have one like here at number 3 or number 4, where there's a negative number on the outside that you multiply. This is a negative 4 times a negative 9, which is a positive 36 in my absolute value. The absolute value of 36 is 36, but then I have to multiply it by a negative 3. Because that negative is outside the absolute value, my answer will be negative. It's a negative 108. Moving on to the next section, just to kind of get you an idea. These will solve the same way. You split and you solve. So subtract 2, that's absolute value of negative 2n is less than or equal to 6. So that'll be negative 2n is less than or equal to 6, and negative 2n is greater than or equal to negative 6. Sorry, you have to solve both of those and then graph them on that number line there, okay? It's going to be really important. There are a couple graphing questions on the test that won't be multiple choice. It's you got to graph it, all right? So make sure you understand how that works. Another thing in Thunder, it's going to be fine. Okay, I subtract 5. This is absolute value of negative 4 plus x is greater than or equal to a negative 3. An absolute value is a positive number. It's always going to be bigger than a negative. This one is all real numbers. Okay, I could go through some of the rest of these. Really don't have that much time. Moving on. The transformations. This minus 3, that's a k value. That means it's going to go down 3. The translation of y equals the absolute value of x up 2 and left 1. Remember, the left and right do the opposite. So I add 1 inside my absolute value. That moves it left 1. Up 2 units would be a plus 2 on the outside. I put my y equals. I'm good to go. On this one, vertical and horizontal translation on this one. The plus 3 makes it go 3 to the left. Remember that h value does the opposite. The minus 4 makes it go 4 down. Moving on. I'm just going to grab the vertex out of these real quick. Remember, it's hk. So this would be the opposite. It's a negative 1 and then a positive 2. That's my vertex right there. On this one, this is a positive 4 and a negative 3, so it would be negative 4, negative 3 for that vertex. On this one, this would be a negative 1 and a positive 3 on the vertex. This is a minus 3, it would be a positive 3 and then a negative 3 on the vertex. Okay? It's the opposite of that h value, and then it's the k value. Okay? Evaluate these functions down here. This is using our function notation. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. 4 minus 8 is a negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. Plus 2 is 18. Same kind of thing. On this one, though, with the x minus 1, and you're supposed to square it, don't forget you have to put it in the boxes. That's x minus 1, x minus 1. Multiply that whole thing out. Make sure you get that taken care of. Then you'll multiply this by 4 as well. You'll just distribute that 4 on the x minus 1. Combine your like terms. All right? And then on the back page, Vertex of Translations, this would be 7, 0. It's 7 to the right. Kind of forget about this one. I always forget. That b value, we didn't really do that. This one's a vertical stretch. And it's up 3 because that 2 is on the outside over there. The equation for the translation of this, if we're saying that this is our parent function, which it is, this went up 2, so that'll just be a plus 2 out here at the end. And again, down here at the bottom, it's just asking you, it says this is f of x, this is g of x. What happens when you put in these numbers? What happens when you put in these variables? There are like, I think 4 or 5 problems like that on the test. Test is 20 questions, 18 of them are multiple choice. The other 2 are solve it down, graph that inequality. If you have any other questions, track me down in the morning, find me during flex period, and good luck on your test.
Bye.